From KSI and Jake Paul being too busy to sit down for negotiations, to Paul, who has lost all interest in fighting the YouTuber. Here's why KSI versus Jake Paul won't happen. The match has been long scheduled to take place in late 2023. Currently, it's just talk, as no official date has been penciled in for the bout. But the internet's problem child and KSI have been shooting daggers at each other every chance they get. The two can pretty much be in the same category. They're both famous YouTube personalities who've switched over to combat sports and are two of the most notable figures in the emerging influencer boxing scene. Although they're both very invested in the sport, Paul's more serious about it as a career. But the 26-year-old hasn't had it easy throughout his time as a boxer. Ever since the beginning, the credibility of his career has been up for discussion, since he only fought against opponents like Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva. Now don't get me wrong, those are some major names. But in the world of MMA, and the only time he went up against an actual boxer, Tommy Fury, he lost. That gave critics all the more reason to downgrade his achievements and leave his career in shambles. KSI, on the other hand, has only fought fellow influencers during his Misfits boxing promotion. Either way, he's constantly been nudging Paul to step into the ring with him. The YouTuber is dead set on stepping into the ring with Jake and not building his boxing career. All he wants to do is beat Paul, and then he's supposedly done with the sport. Calling him a fraud, he stated that the influencer was simply not as good as the hype made him out to be. And just like you do with frauds, he's going to be the one to expose him. Every time I would see Jake win a fight, it just angered me because I'm there, like he's not that good. Personally, I think he's a fraud. I think he's a fraud, and I'm the guy to expose him. The two have been in talks to settle their issues in a grudge match at the end of the year, and according to KSI, they've already booked Cardiff Stadium for December. And to edge the stakes a bit higher, there's one more little clause thrown in there: a winner-takes-all prize structure. But the two have been going back and forth since the very beginning. Will the fight ever even come to fruition? Not anytime soon. Both KSI and Jake Paul are currently way too busy to entertain each other right now. Paul has recently been handed his first defeat by Tommy Fury. The match had a lot of hype surrounding it and was extremely famous among younger audiences. And there was huge pressure on both of them to save face. Paul had to shut up all those people doubting his skills, and Fury, being boxing legend Tyson Fury's brother, had to make sure he didn't lose to an amateur social media boxer. This one match had both their careers in a chokehold. Not to mention, things were also pretty rocky between the two, since the two were constantly hurling insults at each other. Their rivalry had majorly escalated way before the match, with Paul going as far as leaking the news of Fury's newborn and then mocking his baby daughter. In the end, when the highly anticipated day finally came, Fury won the match by a split decision. But that wasn't the end of it. Paul came prepared. He entered the ring with a condition that he could demand a rematch if he wasn't satisfied with the results. In other words, if he lost. And since Fury managed to pull it off, that's just what he did. Mans didn't even give the 23-year-old a minute to revel in his hard-earned victory. Right after the fight, he acknowledged Fury's win, but followed that up with clear intentions of taking him up for another match. And Fury didn't back down either. He readily accepted the problem child's challenge for the second time. So now here we are, waiting for Paul versus Fury 2. According to the latest reports, it was scheduled for the summer around July. But then again, nothing has been confirmed yet. According to Tommy's dad, John Fury, Paul dipped after slamming down the rematch clause. So there's still a long way from properly sitting down and starting negotiations for the second match. Meanwhile, KSI isn't ready to face off against Jake Paul just yet. He wants at least one more fight before he steps into the ring with the younger Paul brother. And the undefeated Brit is already up to face his toughest opponent yet, Joe Fournier. The English businessman transitioned to boxing in 2015 and has a record of 9-0, winning all of his matches by knockout. The boxing match is scheduled for May 13th and will take place at London's Wembley Arena. While talking on the MMA Hour, KSI stated that he had either Fournier or Woodley in mind for his next bout, but considering Woodley hadn't won a fight since 2018, he gave up on the former welterweight champion. He's been on a 6-fight losing streak. Do I need to fight this guy? He wanted a real challenge, and not opponents he knew he'd be able to knock out. Someone like Fournier. Man's had a 9-0 record, is a pro boxer, and has even had an international belt at some point. For KSI, he's that guy. He even stated that if he went up against Woodley, it would only be to prove that he could defeat him faster than Paul did. So it's pretty useless for his portfolio. I mean, I'm no expert, but KSI's making some bold claims, and he'd better be able to back them up. Both fighters have gone back and forth in contract negotiations, with both wanting an advantage over the other. The 40-year-old also revealed KSI's team demanded a rematch clause in the fight, stating that it showed how unconfident they were going into this. Since then, they've both been throwing insults and describing how they're going to humiliate each other in the ring. KSI's positive he'll be able to knock out the pro boxer and claimed that, in fact, he was the one who was scared for Fournier, while the businessman stated that the 29-year-old was in for a rude awakening. Just like Paul, he was going to find out that going up against a real boxer isn't easy. It's the real deal, and KSI isn't at the level to go up against one yet. But since the deal's been done, he's going to have no problem rendering him unconscious, with both men promising pain and humiliation for the other. The heat is building up for the match. Either way, if KSI backs out, he'll get another shot at Fournier thanks to the rematch clause. He just needs to get one fight in before he squares up against Paul. The man needs to warm up, or he'll have to eat his words. But with the fight being delayed so much, what are the chances of it even happening? Even though KSI's constantly been irking Paul for a match, trying to get his attention by constantly degrading and challenging him, the social media star can't be bothered. He's already mentioned that he's losing interest in the YouTuber, even though he'd love to fight the 29-year-old. He's got much bigger plans to work toward, becoming a world champion. So going up against him would just be a side quest, not the stepping stone he's looking for. According to Paul, he's looking for real fighters. And KSI, well, he isn't exactly up to his level. He's more like a side chick to him. The disrespect is real. But earlier this year, the pair eventually reached an agreement for a fight, with the winning star taking home the entire purse. However, with KSI occupied with Fournier and Paul setting up a rematch with Fury, negotiations have yet again reached a dead end. Long story short, after maintaining a feud on social media for the past 5 years and constantly threatening to beat the living daylights out of each other in the ring, it's all talk, hopefully just for the time being. Even though a match was planned for the end of 2023, any terms and conditions have yet to be discussed. And until the two are done with the opponents at hand, all plans are on hold. I guess for the time being, the two will have to stick to sending each other R-rated insults through social media. And that's all from my side on why KSI versus Jake Paul won't happen.